Hi. I just wanted to I want to get some thoughts down. I noticed that we had this like real big movement towards putting ourselves in front of a camera and letting people know what our view of the world is. I guess the only difference is between now and then was that that was something that was really reserved for the big three channels. It wasn't really available for the everyday person, and now it is. Yeah, I was basically reluctant to get involved in that since you have like 6 billion people in the world, and everybody who has an internet can put their information on a video, and I didn't think that was the way that I wanted to go, but I'm starting to feel a little left out. So I just want to make some highlights on my personal what was important to me, and the place I really want to start at is losing a career. Um, I used to, well, I'll just say I had one career, and then it didn't work out the way that I wanted to. So I um, decided not to live paycheck to paycheck, so to speak, and go to pack up and restart in another community that I thought would be, where I could save money. My thought at the time was I would be able to save money, work, save money, and then come back, maybe do some type of entrepreneurial uh, enterprise. Well, I'm from a. The only problem was that I'm from an urban environment and a northern urban environment where um, and most people know the geographic nature of that. It's a lot of minorities, um, jobs for minorities, and you could basically find your way. Well, when I went to this one location, and it was basically a hospitality. Was a basic hospitality. The main industry was the hospitality industry, and I was younger at the time, so I that really took me by surprise. It took me by surprise, and when I went to look for work, I didn't see a lot of Fortune 5 companies that I was used to getting like a little temporary assignment. Um, and that was a major setback for me because the only jobs that really were available were at the hotels or the lodges, and as a waitress or something because I wasn't going to get a job as a manager, or I just wasn't. Um, it just wasn't available to me. So, but that was on that side of the coin. And what's interesting is that, like, when I was born, that was the most important thing, was to be able to get a where you be able to get a job, or you be able to get uh, housing, uh, to have, of course, to have this family, where you be able to get education. Excuse me. And um, I didn't really take it for granted, but it was really kind of hurtful that I wasn't able to establish myself there, and I really didn't have anybody to. My mother was alive at the time. I really didn't have anybody to share that experience with. But on the other side of the coin, um, it was in the mountains and um, at a high elevation. It was everything that I thought it would be on that level. I hadn't seen. I'd been to Germany, but I didn't recall the experience of being in the mountains. And this, and that was everything for me. I'm a black female, as is obvious, um, and it may have been interesting to some. For me, it was interesting for me. There was that that whole experience was tailor made for me spiritually. Um, and if God ever, if I ever believed that God knew exactly where He wanted you to be, I believe it because of that experience. I'm glad that I had that experience. Because when I came back to the East Coast, I was able to view it from a different perspective. I appreciated what I had then, and I appreciate what I had to embark upon. But and then now I know that it's really no people travel all the time. Um, Now I know, I didn't really know at the time, but people travel to all the different continents, and the world is full of so many places, like Aspen, Colorado. I mean, completely surpasses that, um, and they have this a much more um, wonderful time. But at the time, for me, it was no comparison. I didn't want to, you couldn't have exchanged it on a certain in a certain view, because I had true freedom of consciousness. I would like to say I really appreciate the freedom of consciousness, or at least feeling like and the expectation of privacy, because I felt like I had privacy, and uh, and I felt like my consciousness was free, and I can't explain that. I didn't feel confined. I didn't feel like I was in a little box. And so so when I had to, with that being said, that's very important because the little wounds that I had that were so insurmountable seemed to just dissipate with the atmosphere. And, uh, and, um, there was, and God definitely shed His grace on me because, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. I took some chances. Um, I would never recommend, trails to anyone. I would never recommend camping trails to anyone. Um, I would never recommend heeding to the voice that calls you out to the wilderness. Um, I never recommend looking for an adventure. Um, but I did all of those things, and um, I'm just I'm just fortunate to be alive. To be quite frank about it, a lot of people lose their lives on trails. Very experienced hikers lose their lives on trails. Um, I didn't have the money. I prided myself on living on a shoestring budget, and I don't think that's appropriate, but I did it. Um, I would never go. I don't like, and I would never. It's no rule never discuss money with anyone, and I would adhere to that. I would never tell anyone how rich I was or how poor I was. I'd never let anybody know uh, if I admired a person because they were successful, or if I admired a person because they were at modest means, because the people aren't, regardless of how you might think about it, people aren't ready to make that adjustment. Um, and I'm always surprised at how people really are and how cruel they really are from all different income stratus. Um, and I thank the people. Well, I'm not even going to say that, but I just don't. I don't suggest it. But I do suggest whatever means a person has that you thank God for that, and when you have time, thank Him again because it doesn't just and then thank Him again before He takes it away from you because you never know what life has to store. and we're never ever really prepared for what's really in store. That's what seems to be the only common denominator for for all that we are and all that we aren't. We never really we're never really prepared for what life has to offer us, and that's the one truism that I can hold on to, that we don't know and God does know. And that when I came, so yeah, and it's not in a real intense way. You didn't see a lot of it is God's country to me. All country is God's country. Anywhere you can go and see a nice environment, not cluttered by the smog and the crime, and maybe get out of your own element for a minute to see something that is God's country. And I was able to see it as that. I was able to see it as God's country, and I will always see it as God's country. And one day, if I'm a little old lady, if I live to be a little old lady, the verdict is still out, but and if I'm sitting somewhere in a nursing home, I like to reflect on those thoughts that whatever like emotional wounds that I was going through because of some this career, and it is your career, or not even it's not even a career. A career is when you choose to do something, and then you choose an occupation. You educate yourself so that you can do that occupation and work in that occupation, and you're successful in it. But when you take a job that at the first job that comes along because you need something to survive, then that's earning a living, and that's basically what I do, if that. And so, but if I'm fortunate enough to then I like to remember that experience, because only that which is good, only that which is good in the past that you reflect on. For me, for a person like me, and I have to say, when I got back to the East Coast and I heard all the different things that were being said, all the people stating that how we are going backwards in equal rights, and civil rights, and human rights, and women's rights, and workers' rights, and um, you know, to be an American citizen rights, and rights to religion. When I, after having been, had my had to come to terms with what I had to do to go in the future, to here we are arguing about things that I was basically thought there were non-issues. Um, I mean, I had just got finished. I guess it's a communion with God. You know, and that was the other part of it. It's God's country, and I feel like they call it like finding yourself. I think that's what they used to call it, finding yourself. And I don't like to call it finding myself because I don't think I was lost. But I really took time. I did have one man say to me one time that everybody should know who you are spiritually. Everybody should know what it is you believe in. Everybody should know what their metaphysical or religious outlook is. Where do I stand on some of these issues? You should define them. The better view, the best. No, he says you should define those aspects of your life, and I'm glad he said that, because I did, and that's what I spent my time. Why am I here? And how? Who is this, and what is that, and why did this happen? And, because I am a black female in the United States in the 21st century. Uh, I like to say that I like to thank God for the life that I have had, and um, and I like to thank him again, and I like to thank him again. And I believe that he knows what's in my heart before I speak it. It's not necessary for me to speak anything, but I like to say that because I don't know if I was writing. I don't know where I was at, but um, I am reminded now that uh, racism is real, sexism is real, and while when I was growing up, people told me that I am somebody. There is a counter force out there that doesn't care who you are. Um, and while I adore the Prince of Peace, there's a world where there's nothing but warmongers and whoremongers, and I'm amongst the worst of them. I'm not flawless by any stretch of imagination, but I don't like. I see people losing. I see the black community losing. Well, I see myself losing my identity as a black American female, not an African American female. When I grew up, we were black Americans. You know, I'm not a young girl. I'm an old woman. Old. I don't want to be young. I don't want to be a teenager. I don't want to pretend that I'm young. I don't want to see eyes out of young. I'm 57 years old and I want to live the life of a 57-year-old person. As a matter of fact, by my guesstimation, um, I'm lucky to have been here this long. So, but I think so I'm kind of discriminating. I know that I'm discriminated because of my age. The reason why I take my hair off because I went to a real traumatic situation. I cut all of my hair off, which I had no intention of doing because I had problems with my scalp, believe it or not. And that is a very, very bad sign when you start having problems with your scalp. Um, so I want to go get. I had to get some tests, and at my age, um, I don't know what it is. I don't even want to discuss it. But not to say that you were fooled one way or the other, but it is if it was. I was wearing the hair, and I was doing the color, and my scalp's really bothering me, and my eyes are bothering me, and my teeth are bothering me, and my feet are bothering me. So I said, I guess the hair has to go. So I just went and got it all cut. And I did some kind of treatment to it and I damaged part of it too. So I didn't, but the part of it is, it was just the extraordinary amount of time that people are spending on hair. I hardly ever discuss my hair. I never, ever, ever have discussed my hair with people. It was my own thing that I did with my own hair. And I resent how people talk about my hair. When my mother passed away, before my mom passed away, she said that my mother had pretty hair. She was like, she could, she looked like an Indian, like a real Cherokee Indian. And when she was born, her hair was down to her back, and she was like really kind of fair skinned. But we didn't really talk about stuff like we never talked about color. Except at one time, she said I should have turned out like her. But other than that, she wasn't prejudiced like people are today. But I said that to say that she had beautiful hair, but my hair was like shoulder length. And when she said before she passed away that she used to get really, 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 really angry. And she couldn't control her anger. And it was getting worse and worse. And she didn't know where it was coming from. And so now I'm older. Now she's no longer here. But and also right before she passed, she had a stroke, and it was a massive stroke, and it was so bad that uh, she had to have a brain operation, and they cut her hair all the way back to here, and it took some type of mass from up in here. So when I started having problems with my hair, I just that's why I just cut it off. I would have never believed that history would repeat itself. But cancer, one in they say that there's 300 million people in the country in the United States, and 150 million of them have are impacted by an invasive cancer. So I spent a lot of time trying to do preventive um, maintenance, but it's all of the um, all of the things are starting to have like this putting stress on me. That's another reason why I cut my hair. So, and had it bald at one time. I tried it. Actually, it was bald, but the barber refused to go any further down. He just let it have like some on the top. He didn't want to just make it. He refused to do the rest. No, I'm not doing that. He knew I was angry, and I did get angry. I had a temper tantrum, and that's the real reason why I cut my hair. He said, "I'll do that for him." But well, not that you care, but my mom. Little moments like that is what makes my life worth living. Not the other stuff. So he, so now I think that I don't really see a lot. I don't know where I got this from. I don't know where I got this from, but I don't really like the direction that we're going um, as an ethnic group. Um, I don't like talking about failure. I don't like talking about. I think that the same verdict is still out. I think that nothing much has changed from the time that we've come over on the boats against our will. It looks like a lot has changed. It has changed a lot in the sense that we can get an education and all those types of things. But um, I think that the enemy wants to eliminate. I can't say it. My position is that Satan is a real entity, and his goal in life is to destroy mankind. And while the United States we suffer from a lot of divorce rates, he has a vow, and that's to destroy mankind. And he doesn't seem to relinquish his vow. He wants to destroy mankind, and that includes the black race. And that's basically what I see going on today. So I wish we could rein in some of the ignorance and move forward a different way, but I guess we're not going to be able to. The horses are out the gate, and everybody's going their own direction. And it's just surprising that it's just the whole thing is surprising. Everybody was so all these people came out to help, and then now there's no cloak for us, and they're all kind of scattering, having achieved their goals and building countries and amassing wealth. And they got the best one, and they don't need this one. Political power, but I must say it's nothing like I had in mind. I didn't really, I thought that only thing I thought would have been I thought that we were going to be able to stay together as a collective being group of people. I kind of bored into that dream, but we're becoming more individuals, and everybody's just taking the right ownership, and not getting what they want out of the situation. Everybody's getting what they want out the great war, so to speak. Thank you and goodbye. And I don't like that. It's a sad state of affairs going into this holy season. And now we don't have a holy season because we'll have one, but it won't be like it normally is. They're turning pilgrims back. Countries are becoming isolationist, and death tolls are going up, and people are scrambling to separate themselves from their own evil without a guide this time. So, I mean, this is like really a nightmare. And this is not, this is the nice part. This is the nice part. The not so nice part is that persecution is worse than death. Because when a person takes your freedom of consciousness, then they basically, it's not, I don't know what else you can be really good for. God works in mysterious ways. But, and I guess that's why they say it's worse than death. Because it is, that is a true spiritual death. And it's worse than death. But, so, these are my thoughts. We have a pandemic, we have a national emergency, and I'm gonna have to get out of my pity party. There are a lot of people are a lot worse off than I am. They passed away from the virus. Most people are healing. It's a lot of deaths, and I just don't. I try to understand why they didn't do this for the AIDS virus the moment that it hit the streets. Put all alerts, but maybe now, maybe this is in response to that. So, okay, I have something else to write.